What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cap Show. NCAA Football Week 11. What a weekend. Shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They got the job done. What's crazy about Notre Dame right now is they are 6th in the AP Top 25, which is amazing, right? There still is an outside chance that Notre Dame will still get in. There really is. I love or hate them. That's just the way it is. I think a lot of things have to happen for Notre Dame to get in that spot. A lot of things. They have to have Alabama lose a game. They have to have Cincinnati lose a game. Just a lot of things have to go their way, but they got the job done. I do think if Notre Dame did play Cincinnati later on in their schedule, I do think Notre Dame would have handled Cincinnati better. I just think them playing Cincinnati earlier on in the year was not a benefit for Notre Dame at all. I think it was more of a benefit for Cincinnati. We saw that, and we saw Cincinnati right now. They're undefeated, which is amazing. I mean, obviously they don't have the schedule, and I do think they're going to continue to drop back in the college football rankings. But look, overall, shout out to Notre Dame. Shout out to Jack Cohn. 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Then obviously the X Factor, Kyron Williams. I do think he's the best player on Notre Dame's roster. He had 70 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. Look, what a time, man. Hey, shout out to Coach Kelly, a.k.a. Brian Kelly. He's an amazing coach. He needs to stay with Notre Dame. There was some rumors a couple weeks ago that he could go elsewhere. That would be a mistake. I do think long-term, Brian Kelly is the coach for Notre Dame. He's already been there for about a decade. I do think he can stay another decade for 20-plus years and bring home that national championship that Notre Dame hasn't seen since 1988, dude. Since 1988. It's amazing, but huge win by Notre Dame. You know, Cincinnati, yes, they beat UCF. They didn't cover, though. You know, they won 45-28. And a lot of these games that Cincinnati should blow them out, they haven't, dude. They haven't blown them out at all. And really, that's what makes sense why Cincinnati continues to drop back a little bit. It's like, dude, we understand that their schedule is weak. That's not really Cincinnati's fault. I do think overall, yes, Notre Dame's the only team they really played. I mean, they got SMU this weekend, but come on. I'm talking about a top 10 team week in and week out, like an SEC school, like Alabama and Georgia. Yes, we saw Alabama play New Mexico State. Like, come on, dude. Like, what? Like, come on. That's just not fair. But, you know, Cincinnati, big win. Desmond Ryder, he had over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Look, Cincinnati continues to roll. Shout out to Cincinnati. Then we got Alabama, like I said, killed New Mexico State. They did cover, which is crazy. They were 51.5-point favorites. I told you guys to go money line in this pick. I really thought that was going to hit, but you know what? Bryce Young, man, 5 touchdowns. He's a killer. Jason Williams, he had 6 receptions, 158 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. Hey, Williams is nice. I just think for Alabama right now, yes, you're going to have to beat Georgia. I mean, everybody's going to have to go through Georgia, whether they like it or not. So that's just part of it, dude. So, you know, hey, Alabama, they continue to roll. Big win by Alabama. But like I said, New Mexico State, really, dude? That's a cakewalk game right there. Then we got Michigan versus Penn State. Penn State did not win. I told you guys to go with the upset here. That did not happen. Michigan, they got the job done. Their quarterback, Cade, he had a pretty decent game. 3 touchdowns, 217 yards passing. And then Haskins, he had 31 carries, 156 yards rushing. He balled out. That was a given. Sean Clifford for Penn State, he had 205 yards passing and 1 touchdown. Penn State had their opportunities. They did. I thought, you know, a couple times they just made some miscues here. They weren't not on the same page. They weren't. And really, that's what cost them the game. You know, not to take anything away from Penn State, but Michigan got the job done. And really, Michigan, they do play Ohio State at the end of the season. So I cannot wait to see what happens next for them. Big win by Michigan. Then we got Oklahoma versus Baylor. I told you guys to go Oklahoma. I was dead wrong on this pick. We learned a lot about Oklahoma. Losing to Baylor, this is great, dude. This is good for college football. And they were always right about Oklahoma. Oklahoma started like 2 or 3 at the first week 1 of college football. Then we realized, well, their defense is trash. They're weak. They give up a lot of points. Their quarterback situation was always iffy. Caleb Williams really balled out this season, coming in as a second string. But, you know, he had 2 interceptions this game. And that wasn't kind of, dude. And really, we saw, Spencer Rattler get in there, and really the body language told me that, hey, he was just mad that he's been benched, all that, which I kind of feel him in a way. He's been balling out for Oklahoma, then he goes around and gets benched. I don't understand that. I just think the whole coaching situation might have been a little different. Kennedy Brooks, he had 51 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. But Baylor, the difference was their running back, Abraham Smith. He had 20 carries on 148 yards rushing. That was the difference right there. Right there, the ground game, them controlling the clock, and then shout out to Gary Bohannon, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but it was all Baylor. And we learned, like I said, Oklahoma, they're done. They're not even going to have an opportunity to make the playoffs this year. They're out. They're probably going to be out of the top 10. So to me, I always thought Oklahoma was overrated from day one. I even said their defense was sus from day one. So big win by Baylor, man. Then we got Mississippi State versus Auburn. This was a dumb pick by me. I went Auburn at home, which was a mistake. Mississippi State, Will Rogers, 6 touchdowns. That's all we had to know. 6 TDs, man. Shout out to Will, dude. He played out of his mind. He played like he was broke. He really did, dude. Shout out to Will, man. Mississippi continues to roll, man. Auburn's overrated. And really, we go back to the, week 3 when they played Penn State. We thought, Auburn was really going to win. But, at the end of the day, Auburn is a little overrated. That's what we do know. But big win by Mississippi State. Then we got Northwestern versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 24.5-point favorites. Hey, they won. They handled business. They got the job done. Really, the difference was the running back, Allen. He had 173 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. The ground game was everything in Wisconsin against Northwestern this game, and that's really what it was. And we see Wisconsin year in and year out. They always have great offensive lines and great running backs, dude. Shout out to Allen. Wisconsin, they rolled like I told you guys. Then we got Utah versus Arizona. Utah did win, but they didn't cover the 24 points. That's crazy, right? But Cameron Rising, he had 294 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. TJ Pledginger, he had 119 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns for Utah. They balled out. It was all Utah. Arizona, Will Plummer, he had 223 yards passing and a touchdown. He also had 10 carries on 50 yards rushing and a touchdown. Look, for Arizona, nothing to hang your hat on. Utah was just a better team. They played better. That's why they won. Obviously, they didn't cover. If you went money line, you hit the Utah bet. Shout out to the Utah. And then we got Georgia versus Tennessee. Tennessee, they gave them a run for their money, right? It was 41-17, the final score. But look, and we saw Tennessee score on the opening drive. Like I said, Hendon Hooker was going to have a good game. 244 yards passing and touchdown and an interception. But look, and really what the difference was again, Georgia's defense. Yes, they gave up 17 points, but really, Georgia's running game was kind of nice. Shout out to James Cook, 104 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns for Georgia. He's coming along at the perfect time. Georgia is the number 1 team in the country by far. They're way ahead of Alabama. Stetson Bennett, he had 213 yards passing and a touchdown. Cedric Tillman, he had 200 yards receiving and 1 touchdown for Tennessee, dude. Hey, this kid balled out, but it wasn't enough. And like I said, Georgia, they are the team to beat. They're undefeated 10-0. And really, Georgia's going to go off. I do think they're going to win the SEC championship and then go at number 1 in the college football playoff. I cannot wait to see what holds for Georgia, but like I said, it's all Georgia in this matchup. Then we got Purdue versus Ohio State. Purdue, I went with the upset here. I was betting with my heart, not my mind. But look, Ohio State, they got the job done. They did what they needed to do. C.J. Stroud, he had 361 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Mylan Williams, he had 14 carries, 117 yards for Ohio State. And then Aiden O'Connell for Purdue, he had 4 touchdowns, dude. Almost 400 yards passing, dude. I mean, he balled out as well. Purdue played good, dude. They did. Yes, they got beat pretty soundly, but they still put up, 31 points? David Bell, 103 yards receiving. I'm telling you what, dude, Purdue, they will get a nice bowl game this year. They should get a big-time school. Maybe an SEC school, something like that. But Ohio State, right now, if they win the Big Ten, I do believe Ohio State will get in there, at least that 4th spot in the playoffs. I cannot wait. Big win by Ohio State. And then we got Minnesota versus Iowa. I went Minnesota with the upset pick. I was definitely way off. It was definitely all Iowa in this matchup. And really, it was the receiving of Charlie Jones. 106 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Tyler Goodson, he had 59 yards rushing. Really just to control the whole pace of the game. Minnesota was right there, though. Tanner Morgan, 183 yards passing and 1 touchdown. I just think, looking at it, man, it's like for Minnesota, you guys had a couple opportunities. We can't get mad about it. It is what it is. Big win by Iowa. Then we got Maryland versus Michigan State. Michigan State handled business. They were 12-point favorites. They easily covered that. Peyton Thorne, he had 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Kenneth Walker III, he should be the Heisman winner this year. He had 143 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns this game. I mean, every single game this year, dude, Kenneth Walker has balled out, dude. He has balled out, really. And then Jaden Reed, he had 114 yards reception and 2 touchdowns. It's all Michigan State. Like I said, Michigan State's got a couple of rough games coming up, but you know what? Michigan State still has the outside opportunity to get into the college football playoff. I cannot wait. And then we got Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. I told you guys to go Ole Miss with the upset. I thought Texas A&M was kind of overhyped. Their quarterback, Zach, he threw 2 interceptions. I just think Matt Carroll, he had 247 yards passing and a touchdown. And it was all Ole Miss here. All Ole Miss. And then Durain Early, he had 152 yards rushing for Ole Miss. And it was really all Ole Miss right here. Big upset alert. I told you guys to go Ole Miss with the upset. I was definitely right on this pick. I told you guys, man, it's like clockwork right here. So, big win by Ole Miss. Then we got Arkansas versus LSU. Arkansas with the upset. I told you guys to go Arkansas here in overtime. This was an overtime game. What a game. KJ Jefferson, 142 yards passing and a touchdown. Dominique Johnson, he had 40 receiving yards and 1 touchdown for Arkansas. And really, that was it. I mean, Davis Price, he had 28 carries, 106 yards for LSU. This kid's a baller as well. He will definitely be in the NFL one day. But Arkansas, they got the job done in overtime. I told you guys to go Arkansas. Then we got TCU versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State got the job done. They killed them, dude. Killed TCU. Spencer Sanders, 235 yards passing and a touchdown. Dominic Richardson, 134 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns for Oklahoma State. They blew out TCU. That was easy work for them. And then we have Washington State versus Oregon. Oregon was 14-point favorites. It was a push. Anthony Brown, 135 yards passing and a touchdown. He also had 123 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. Look, Oregon right now, they control their destiny. If they win the Pac-10, they're in, dude. They are in the college football playoff. So I just think for Oregon right now, it's like there's no need for you guys to shoot yourself in the foot. No need to freak out. No need to panic. Right now, you guys control your destiny. So I think for Oregon and Ohio State, they must continue to win, dude, if they want to jump Cincinnati. So, what a weekend for college football. Shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The top 5, obviously Georgia, Bama at 1 and 2 right now. And then Cincinnati keeps jumping back and forth. Then Oregon, Ohio State. Those are the top 5 still right now. And what's crazy in the AP top 25, they got Notre Dame at 6. So we're on the outside looking in as well. Never say never. Anything is possible, but it's college football, baby. Let's go!